Rohit Kansal, Principal Secretary, Higher Education, J&K Government, has arrived. We welcome
Institute, faculty members, Chairman AICTE who is online, and all of you who are gathered here. I thank you all for this opportunity given to me to come and speak to you. And it's always a pleasure to speak to young people. As I was thinking of what to say to all of you, I came across an article which spoke about what the future of education should be. And one of the things that the article mentioned, that education in the future will be in the shape of small snack type bites. So I have taken this very seriously. I will try to keep my address as brief as possible, and you can ask me questions. But what I want to talk about today is, what is the future that we are heading to? The theme of your conference is Envisioning India's Future Growth, Innovation, Sustainability, Happiness and Well-being. The key words here, as I see, are future, growth, innovation, and of course, sustainability and well-being. When we think of the future, we all tend to think of the future as something which is far away, over the horizon, yet to come, something that we are apprehensive of, something that we look forward to. So there is a mixture of trepidation, there is a mixture of apprehension, but there is also a looking forward to the future. This is probably why we have both kinds of views about the future. So you have Aldous Huxley's dystopian work, Brave New World, and you have H.G. Wells' A New Utopia, both kinds of views of the future. But actually, the future is not something which is there deep into the horizon which will suddenly arrive one day. The future is actually a continuum between the past and the present. And the present invariably is in a continuum with the future, and the present is leading into the future. So which is why in 1938, when somebody asked Albert Einstein, he said, "I never think of the future. It actually comes soon enough." And we saw that during the pandemic, when things changed suddenly, and more than anywhere else, they changed in the field of education. So what does the future look like when we talk of technology, when we talk of education? What does the future look like? What is the new paradigm? What will remain same? What will change? Or what should remain same and what should change? Well, change is not something which is happening today. Change is a part of history. Change is a part of our very existence. The Persians were one of the strongest empires in the world. For 5 centuries, the Romans were one of the strongest empires in the world. But the Romans and the Persians are now part of history. We all speak about the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution 1.0 or 1.0 is also part of history now. The Industrial Revolution 1.0 was a revolution which was driven by the power of steam, the power of mechanics. That gave way to the Industrial Revolution 2.0. The Industrial Revolution 2.0 was a revolution of mass production. It was a power of division of labor, the pin making example which Adam Smith gave to all of us. The Industrial Revolution 2.0 gave way to Industrial Revolution 3.0, which was the Industrial Revolution of the computers. You had computers doing things. I remember when we were talking about engineering, mechanical engineering and computer engineering existed worlds apart. And the only intersection, the only intersection that you could see was probably the small designs that you could do on CAD/CAM computers. So that was the only thing when you thought of, when you spoke of, or probably when you spoke of data, or when you spoke of some kind of data being fed into a computer, some kind of small calculations being done. That was what computers, manufacturing, the worlds of computer and manufacturing had begun to intersect to some extent, or maybe they began to come closer to each other. But now we are in industrial revolution or industry 4.0. Now 4.0 is internet, the era of computers in everything, where you have mixed computers, IoT, internet of everything, and that is what industrial revolution or industry 4.0 is. Now, some people say that industry 4.0 is actually, just a fancy name for what is happening, but there is a distinct difference between what the earlier industrial revolutions was and what the new industrial revolution is. And I think this industrial revolution is what is going to drive the future of tomorrow. And this connectedness of computers, the digital era, and industry, which is going to be a pointer for the future, which is going to define the future. For example, Industry 4.0 optimizes the computerization of Industry 3.0, and as I said, 3.0 was computers being somewhere, 4.0 is computers being everywhere, as in the IoT, the Internet of Things, and they trying to take decisions in certain areas. I will give you one example. Many of you would have heard the story of Rockefeller and the 39 drops. The soldering which Rockefeller's this thing were doing, and Rockefeller walked into the shop floor one day and said whether the soldering could be done with drops less than 40. He discovered that it could actually be done with 39 drops, which ended up saving over a period of time $1 million. But the kind of decisions which are now part of marketing lore, which are now part of optimization of costs lore, are now being handled in a routine manner by computers who crunch data, who look at data, and who try to work out optimized solutions. So the decision which took Rockefeller and his team a couple of months or years to decide, reach to, would probably be done as a natural course by connected computers which are looking at all these parameters and trying to bring about more efficiency and changes. I will give you only 2 or 3 examples how the connectedness of industry, Industry 4.0 through the IoT is bringing about changes. Optimization of logistics and supply chains is something that you are all familiar with. Robotics and robots is something that you're all familiar with. IoT and the cloud is something that you're all familiar with. And but I would also say that this is a work in progress. We are evolving, we are developing, and later on in the course of my talk, I will speak about how there are islands of connectedness and islands of isolation which continue to coexist. But suffice it to say that there is no wishing away this Industry 4.0, and Industry 4.0 and the trends that it will spawn will actually decide how we move ahead into the new world. Now, once we have decided that there is a new manner of doing work, there is a new connectedness in our world, it is quite obvious that the skills, the attributes that are required to succeed in this brave new world have also got to be different. And this is where the relevance of what Dr. Punya was talking of, or the relevance of what you people are doing, comes to the fore. If we have a new industry, if we have a new workplace, if we have a new paradigm that defines how we do work, quite obviously that the skills you need to succeed in this new world are also going to be different. And I think the institutes of today and the institutes of tomorrow will have to provide to you these new order of skills in order to enable you to be successful. The chairman AICTE preempted some of what I had to say by referring to the cognitive skills which are becoming more and more important, particularly the higher cognitive skills, and the lower cognitive skills which are becoming less important. But let me sort of delve a little more deeper into this. As the nature of work that we do is fundamentally changing, the nature of skills that are required to succeed in the world of tomorrow are also fundamentally changing. The half-life of skills is changing so fast that there is a study which was conducted that 80% of the jobs which will be done by school children of tomorrow have probably been not thought of today. So such is the speed at which skills and work are changing. Today's school children may work in areas that probably do not exist today, and the technology jobs that emerge in the next decade may all be done remotely. So much so that on a social scale, the biggest challenge of tomorrow may be loneliness. And why will the biggest challenge of tomorrow be loneliness? Jobs are being done remotely, lower order jobs are being done by machines, social institutions such as the joint family have already broken down, institution of marriage is in parts breaking down. So you are individuals, people are individuals, working remotely, acting remotely, and retreating back to their small cubicles or houses at the end of the day. And actually you got a glimpse of the future in the pandemic when we were all locked down in our houses, studying remotely, working remotely, no human interactions, and loneliness bugging all of us. Probably a good parameter of all this is the speed at which tourism has taken off as soon as the restrictions have been lowered or removed. I come from Jammu and Kashmir, and we are probably having the largest ever tourist footfall in Jammu and Kashmir in the last 10 years, which is also an indicator of how the human mind, the human body yearns for some kind of social contact. But increasingly, this is going to become the reality of tomorrow. I think the social fabric of India is preventing this from happening, but in many of the Western worlds, this is already becoming a reality. But coming back to my original question, what are the skills that are going to be more and more relevant in this interconnected world of tomorrow? To study that, I looked at a study which looked at what has happened in the world of work in the past 10 or 15 years. And the findings, although they pertain to the Western world, they have significant relevance to India as well. They are actually quite interesting. A comparison between the number of hours worked in the West, which is European Union and US, showed a 55% increase in technological skills. It also showed a 24% rise in social and emotional skills and an 8% rise in higher cognitive skills. Now the international consultancy McKinsey looked at some of these figures, and what are McKinsey's findings? He calls it the era of capability. But it also says that this is the era of soft skills in a hard world. So what are we seeing? We are seeing two strands existing simultaneously. We are seeing a lot of hard skills, such as technology and specific things in technology, IoT, cloud, AR, VR, virtual reality, metaverse. So a lot of higher order technological skills, 3D printing, a lot of internet related skills. But you're alongside all these hard technological skills, you are also seeing the rise of a large number of soft skills. And what are these soft skills? These soft skills are empathy, interconnectedness, social contact. I spoke about loneliness. The more we are getting connected, the more we are getting technologically hardwired, the more our need for empathy, the more our need for consensus building, the more our need for working together in flat, socially interconnected spheres is increasing. So your higher order social skills, your higher order cognitive skills, the need for these skills is increasing. The need for your higher order technological skills is increasing, but your need for lower order technical skills, your need for lower order cognitive skills, your need for repetitive tasks, this is a point which was made by Dr. Punia also, this is increasing. So this is the kind of convergence of different kinds of skills, and this is a situation where you're actually moving from one set of skills to another set of skills. I will also dwell a moment on the divergence between employment and unemployability. But let me say something else. There was a skill outlook survey which was done, and what did the skill outlook survey say? What are the skills, the need for which is growing? analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, originality, initiative, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving, leadership and social influence, emotional intelligence, reasoning, problem solving, ideation, systems analysis and evaluation. And what is the skills, the need for which is going down? Manual dexterity, endurance, precision, memory, verbal, auditory and spatial abilities, management of financial and material resources, technology, installation and maintenance, reading, writing, mathematics, active listening, quality control, safety awareness, etc., etc., etc. So therefore, quite obviously, data, digital technology, software application, big data, organizational development, IT services are the jobs of the future, and the jobs of the past or the declining jobs are administrative, accounting, bookkeeping, assembly line, client information, business services, etc., etc. Now what is the challenge here? The challenge here is 96% of universities think that they are fully preparing the graduates of tomorrow for the requirements of tomorrow's workplace. And quite surprisingly, only 10% of recruiters share this. This is the divergence. And by the way, I'm not talking about Indian universities. I'm talking about some of the largest and the biggest names in the world. I'm talking about the topmost universities of the world, 96% of whom think that they are preparing the youngsters for these higher order skills. Recruiters, only 10% of the recruiters think that children are prepared or the emerging workforce is prepared for these kind of skills. Therefore, you have the dichotomy of a large number of unemployed resting alongside a large number of unemployable. So you have people who are not getting jobs and you are industry who is not getting workforce, which is why you had the AICTE chairman talking about AICTE collaborating with industry to work out a model curriculum to find out what are the skills which the youngsters who are coming out of our colleges and universities need tomorrow. But it's not just about what instruction which is being given. It is also about what is the manner in which instruction is being given. You know, in Jammu and Kashmir, I had higher education, so there is a debate going on. The debate which is going on is, a lot of children are saying, since we have been taught online, we should also be examined online. So we should have online examinations. Professors on the other hand are talking about online examinations being a euphemism for everybody being allowed to pass. However, moving away from the debate, this is not just about how people are examined. It is also a debate about what people are examined in. In so many of our institutions, we have something called an open book examination. An open book examination or an online examination, it is irrelevant about where you take the examination. It is irrelevant about whether somebody is looking at you or not, because you are not expected to reproduce what is written in the book. You are actually expected to look at what you have been taught, imbibe that, and use the learning which you have imbibed to come up with practical solutions to a problem which may be presented. And this precisely is the kind of cognition, this precisely is the kind of cognitive skill that you will be called upon to exercise when you go into the world of work tomorrow. Now there is another interesting thing happening. I spoke about the coexistence of the soft skills and the hard skills. Soft skills in a hard world. So this brings me to another interesting debate, an interesting debate about multidisciplinarity, about specialists, about generalists. Now this is a debate which often comes to the fore when they speak of us civil servants or IAS officers. Now we are supposed to be generalists. We are supposed to know a little bit about everything, but we are not supposed to be specialists in everything. Now, is being a specialist a good thing, or is being a generalist a good thing? Do we need to know a lot about a small portion, or do we need to know a bit about everything? I will not delve into this debate, but what I will only need to say is that the new education policy, or the NEP, has also recognized the need for multidisciplinarity, the need for flexibility in curriculum, where a course in philosophy is as important as a course in data sciences. And a course in Byzantine history or a course in the history of the art is just as important as a course in thermodynamics. So, I am reminded of what Shakespeare said in Hamlet about man. What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, how, I forget the full quote, I have it somewhere, how and the full abandon, I can share it with you. But he basically talks about the whole breadth of faculties of the human being, of the individual, of the man, and he speaks about the human being in all his glorious intellect, in rationalism, in humanism, in empathy. And I think the man of tomorrow or the woman of tomorrow would need this kind of multidisciplinarity, this kind of flexibility, these kind of skills. And because of these kind of skills that will be needed in the human being of tomorrow, in the worker of tomorrow, I think a course in the humanities or a study of the humanities will be just as important as a study of what are called the hard sciences. So, as I was saying, the world of tomorrow is going to be a world of technology. It's going to be the world of innovation. And as I spoke a short while ago, we are in Industry 4.0. And in Industry 4.0, it's not just going to be computers and industry, it is going to be computers in industry, where computers are going to look at decisions, where only the critical order decisions are going to be taken by human beings. The repetitive, the lower order cognitive work is going to be done by machines, AI, blockchain technologies, AR, VR, where the real reality is going to seamlessly sit with virtual reality. So that is the work that we are heading into. There was a study which was done by UNIDO, and the study is called the UNIDO Industrial Development Report 2020. So the Industrial Development Report 2020 UNIDO looked at what are called advanced digital production, ADP technologies at scale. And ADP technologies at scale are nothing but what I spoke of Industry 4.0, about how industry and the internet are seamlessly merging together. But the good thing, as far as India is concerned, is that UNIDO found out that 10 countries are leading the development and application of ADP technologies, and probably India is the only middle income country which finds its way in this list. We have a long way to go. We have islands of ADP. We have ADP being done here, but we also have large clusters where we are doing the traditional way. But the good thing is that India has a real opportunity to leapfrog the barriers, to maybe move straight from Industry 2.0 to Industry 4.0, or maybe even to Industry 5.0, and I think that is the challenge for India. That is also the great opportunity for India to become the next Silicon Valley. The building blocks are all in place. And what are the building blocks that are in place? The building blocks which are in place are the demographic dividend that we have, and this demographic dividend is a young population. Half of our population is very young compared to the aging population in the rest of the world. We have an excellent startup culture. We have, for example, Bangalore, we have Gurgaon, which are islands of technological excellence, or Hyderabad, Pune for that. In that case, I already spoke about 65% of India being under the age of 35, 50% being the age of 25. And I spoke about Bangalore being the most dynamic city in the world based on factors like technology and innovation. Gurgaon being transformed into an urban hub. Innovation needs people. We have the brain power, we have the higher engineering muscle, we have the technology muscle. So the only need is to weld all these building blocks synergistically and leapfrog into the technology of tomorrow. And the building blocks are very much there. We can all get there, and government technology will, government support, government policy will move side by side. But then I also want to say, what I do want to say, that this technology, this innovation, this improvement has to work for 1.3 billion Indians. It just does not have to work for the upper crust. It does not have to work for the few hundred or few thousand millionaires in India. It has to work for 1.3 billion Indians. And for it to work for 1.3 billion Indians, you actually need to grow into, Dr. Punya spoke about an $8 trillion economy, but there was a PwC study which said that we actually need to grow into a $10 trillion economy. We need to create 10 to 12 million jobs every year to accommodate our vastly increasing workforce, our young workforce. If our demographic dividend is not to become a demographic disaster, we have to find ways to accommodate them, and we have to accommodate this rapidly emerging, growing workforce into higher order jobs. We cannot accommodate them in lower order jobs because the lower order jobs are actually going away. They are getting mechanized. So we have to accommodate them into higher cognitive jobs. So for which we need to skill people, we need to train people, we need to reskill people. So this is required to lift people out of poverty. So on one hand, we will have to leapfrog this technological barrier. On the other hand, we will have to reskill our people. And on the third, we will have to make technology work for the real India. And how do you make technology work for real India? For example, agriculture. You have a new drone policy, so you are looking at the application of drones in agriculture, you are looking at the application of drones in healthcare. You are looking at doubling farmers' incomes because 60% of our workforce is still in agriculture. You have to make agriculture more productive. You have to pull people out of agriculture, you have to pull people into industry, you have to pull people into services, which is where this entire concept of retraining, skilling, pulling people into the workforce comes in. And you have to make these solutions work for India. You have to make Indians, our entire ecosystem, more productive, more useful, for which government, the private sector, academia have all got to work hand in hand. One final point that I'd like to make. 1 millennia before the Commons era began, which is closely associated with the birth of Christ, what we call the Commons era, CE. 1 millennia before the Commons era began, and 500 years, half a millennia before Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, the Indians were already teaching the world about metaphysics, about philosophy, about the purpose of existence. Many of you would be familiar with the 6 schools of Indian thoughts: Yoga, Sankhya, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta. So this is India's contribution to the world, and the Maha Upanishad spoke of Vasudev Kutumbakam 1 millennia before Christ. So our vision has always been global, our outlook has always been eternal, our philosophy has always been timelessness. We have looked at a world without space and time. In time we have looked at eternity. In space we have looked not just at the whole geographical world, we have looked at the cosmos. So our worldview, our outlook has been multi-dimensional, it has been cosmopolitan, it has been, if I may say so, eternal. So we are the inheritors of that great tradition, and I think the time has come, as I said, to marry our philosophy, our rationalism, our humanism with the technology which we have, with the innovation which is at our doorsteps, and open the doors for India taking its rightful place in the world. And I might tell you, before the Britishers came in, India and China were the 2 richest economies in the world, and they had been so for many, many millennia. I think the time has come to reclaim that position. And I say to all of you, young boys and girls, you are the proud inheritors of that tradition, and you are the torch bearers of the brave new world that we are all looking forward to. You have the energy, you have the skills, you have the inheritance. I wish you all the best. I thank all of you for inviting me, and I do hope that you will do justice to this great country which is India, and you will build a world which is free of prejudice, which is free of hatred, a world which is based on equity, fairness, justice, technology, happiness, sustainability. Thank you.
Highlighting on higher cognitive skills.